Bitcoin update video, considering that we have obviously seen quite a capitulation in the last couple of days, I'd say, mostly the last 2 days. So starting off on the weekly chart, you can see that we are dropping below this blue speed line that I have stolen from Jason and Michael. Now that is taken from the August low in 2024 to the January top this year. And you can see that we were holding on top of this line a lot more than we were last year, indicating a stronger market. However, back here in June, we did have this wick below, but a close back above on the weekly. And obviously, the next week we opened below but closed well above. So I am hoping that we do see a decently strong close this weekend. Hopefully above 116,000, at least 115,600 would be nice. And next week, I would like to see price at least above 118,000. Now, here is some more doom and gloom. If we have a look at the weekly BX trender down here, we can see that we are on track to close lower high unless something crazy happens this weekend. Now, this signal here is quite concerning, where we see 3 lower high weeks followed by a multi-week expansion. In this case, we got 5 weeks higher highs out of that low in June, our 98K low, because this looks a lot like what happened at the end of the 2021 cycle over here. See, you can see here, we had 3 weeks lower highs, followed by a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 week expansion, 1 week lower high, and after that, the rest was history. We had Luna, FTX, blah, blah, blah. Now, the other time this happened was over here in March of 2021. Actually, no, sorry. The other time this happened was actually back here in June of 2020. You can see we had actually 5 weeks of lower highs, followed by 1 week of lower lows here. And then we had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 week expansion, 1 week of lower highs. And after that, we had quite a significant pullback, which was, I think, people were saying was going to be like COVID 2.0. Now, that did make a higher low from where everything was, but from the top here, 12,000 back to 97,000 is quite a significant correction. Now, my maths today is obviously not amazing, so I'm going to use the TradingView chart tool, but you can see that was a 21% correction from there. And if we have a look back here in 2022, you can see from the top, once we started getting our lower highs on the BX trender, we saw pretty much a straight run down of 52% and at least 39% before we saw any weekly swing change using the Gann swing indicator over here. And I don't think something like that is going to happen. However, if this signal is not invalidated, I do believe something like that could be a possibility. Now, what would invalidate that signal? Well, I would probably look to the lower term timeframes for invalidation. And over here on the daily time frame, you can see that although we have been slipping underneath this bullish pennant speed line, which I've drawn up from the April low, you can see that we, in the previous run up, at least on the daily, we haven't seen this much weakness underneath the speed line. We've only seen a couple of closes before a big pump back above, and as soon as we started closing below that speed line and drifting further and further away from it, we had to chop sideways for quite a bit and saw quite a few corrections. Now, obviously, if we do remember from Jason and Michael's videos, specifically Michael's, as the cycle gets more mature, the corrections get shorter. And we can see here, we we had quite a few days below the 50 TMA, which would have given us a nice short opportunity. But right now, despite the $1 billion plus of liquidations on this lovely candle here, we are still holding above the 50 TMA. So I think we could very likely see something like this, where in the next couple of days, we see a very big snapback reversal, and potentially, I'm hoping this weekend we do end up invalidating the lower high on the weekly BX trender. Now, I don't think that is going to happen, being a weekend session. However, one can hope. Now, what I'm doing, I am still going to favor the long side of the market until we start getting daily closes underneath the 50 TMA. Now, obviously, we could get a fake out like we saw here at the start of June, but when you start seeing successive closes under the 50 TMA and further weakness, it does increase the chance of a further capitulation sell-off. Now, over in TIA Premium, we are discussing time analysis, and it does seem that most of us are leaning towards another sell-off, and that is it's almost one of those things where if everyone expects a sell-off, is it actually going to still occur, or are we just going to absolutely pump to another level to just liquidate all the shorters, you know? So in my opinion, as long as we're holding above the 50 TMA, we should not get another sell-off, and I do hope that we get a nice Saturday Michael video now, and it's around midday in Brisbane. So we'll just have to wait and see. Hopefully he'll share some of his more advanced thoughts with us, because I will not pretend that I understand time analysis the way he does. Okay, so looking at the 4-hour time frame, you can see that we did lose this yellow line here, which is the connection of all of the Bitcoin cycle tops, which isn't really a great thing. We have bounced from it many, many times. You can see once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, and the 5th time was a breakdown. So the 4th time breakdown was actually a really big fake out that probably suckered a lot of people into a short, liquidated them, and then now we're back down again. Now, what I don't like is we are closing 4-hour candles underneath this blue line, which is the line that I drew that connected all of the cycle tops in this cycle. Now, I'm not going to zoom out and show that, but another thing we have seen here is a potential, if I switch it over to candles, we are potentially seeing a bullish reversal pattern here, where we see a big red candle, we get a doji, and then we see a green candle. Now, ideally, this 4-hour candle, in the next 2 hours, closes back above this blue line, we get some reaccumulation, and then we make some attempts to get back above the yellow line. Now, what happens if that does not happen? Well, over on the 1-hour chart, you can see we had one of Michael's favorite signals, the 4th time breakdown on the 1-hour chart, which happened at 4 a.m. my time. And you can clearly see we are now starting to consolidate underneath the channel, which, if I zoom out to the 4-hour chart, you can see was formed all the way back here in April of 2025, when we first broke out of that 74k low. You can see we've pretty much respected that channel very well this whole time. And what I don't want to see is, again, continued closes and lower highs underneath the channel, because that leads to an increased chance of a further sell-off, which in this case was around 5-6%. I'm not going to use the tool, but around 104k to 98k. But if we do see a really fast recovery back into the channel, and then obviously price continues northwards, that would be really, really nice. So right now, I am still not buying anymore. I was buying on support, so on obviously the lower trend line of this channel. Obviously, that position is now in a loss. Same on the 4-hour chart. I was buying at support here on the yellow and the blue lines, which are obviously positions that are in a loss. And what I think, jumping back to the daily time frame, I am favoring a fast recovery simply because we are we've been down for quite an extended period of time on the daily chart. Like if you have a look at the daily BX trender, and if you backtest, you usually don't see that many days of red before you start seeing at least, sorry, of dark red before you start seeing at least some lighter red, so higher lows. And if we count the number of days here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So we could potentially see a 2, 3, 4 day reversal, which I think is likely because we are holding the 50 TMA as support. And what I'd be interested to see then is to whether we sell off again for another week or we just see some really fast acceleration back above support levels. Anyways, that's all I have for you today. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time.